Hello, everybody, and welcome to my midterm paper presentation. This is the performance management models and comparative analysis, an exploration of 5 key models in the realm of performance management by myself, Sean Holmes. So, our agenda for today is going to be an introduction to performance management as well as an introduction to the paper. Then we're going to move into talking about the 5 performance management models that we're going to be evaluating. And then we're going to talk about the 2 analysis types that we use, which is the gap analysis and the performance rating scale analysis. And then we're going to end off today with a recommendation of a performance management model. So let's get started. We have introduction to performance management. Now, what is performance management? It is an approach businesses use to combine resources and information to reach performance goals that align with the mission, vision, and strategy of a business. It's very important to business as it ensures that they stay on track and foster a culture of continuous improvement, as well as performance management kind of introduced the idea of instead of using only financial metrics, that they move to a more holistic approach for performance using non-financial metrics. Now we move into the paper methodology. So we're going to start off with the 5 models that we examined, which were the balanced scorecard, performance prism, quantum performance management model, tableau de bord, and SMART goals. As I said before, our 2 analysis types are the gap analysis and the rating performance scale. And then as well, we end with a recommendation, a conclusion of the most effective performance management model. Now we move into our first model, which is the balanced scorecard. So a little bit of background on the balanced scorecard is that it was introduced in the 1990s by a Dr. Robert Kaplan and a Dr. David Norton. It was created to measure performance beyond finances, beyond those financial metrics. And then a few characteristics that this model uses is it uses 4 main perspectives. It is the financial, customer, internal processes, and learning and growth. A few of the values for this are it has a holistic approach, meaning it's an encompassing type of approach that connects the entire business together, aligns strategies with goals, and then it is also very adaptable to a constantly changing environment. Some of the limitations is that it is not a one size fits all, meaning if it works for one company, if you just copy and paste it to the next, it won't work. It is very customizable. It's very independent or as per the business. And then it also requires a lot of organizational change. So that requires a lot of resources, a lot of time, as it attempts to align the entire company. It requires a lot of change throughout each department. Now we're going to move into the next model. We have the performance prism. So for the background on the performance prism, it was originally designed from the idea that the standard performance management models, such as the balanced scorecard, were actually outdated and it had too many shortfalls. The performance prism was created to make sure an organization's plans and operations are in line with the various demands and goals of the stakeholders. This model uses 5 different perspectives. It uses a stakeholder satisfaction, a stakeholder contribution, and then strategies, processes, and capabilities. Some of the values for this model is that it focuses on the stakeholders. It focuses on the people that help make the company and help customers, suppliers, everybody. Additionally, it does also have a holistic view, just like the balanced scorecard. And also it creates a continuous feedback system. As through one thing changes within the system, that each section, each other perspective needs to be evaluated as well. Some of the limitations or non-value adds for this model is that it is it is a difficult challenge to identify the stakeholders. Not every department will see someone as a stakeholder, uh, but it adds a little subjectivity, which can make a very strenuous process to implement the model. Additionally, it is data intensive as it requires non financial metrics. Not a lot of companies uh, keep this information, so obtaining that kind of data will also take a lot of time and resources. Next, we're going to move on to the quantum performance management model. So, as this model is a relatively new model in performance management, this idea of quantum management is that all other previous ways of management were designed for companies in a more predictable state, meaning that in the past that they thought that things were a little bit more predictable as of where now today that we have a ever constantly changing environment, business, political, any kind of environment. War pops up, every now and then as well. So it's a very unpredictable world, which this kind of model is designed to work in. Some of the characteristics of this model, it emphasizes that interconnectedness and flexibility. So when things change within the environment, it acts as one organism, and when thing changes, the entire organism changes, and it's able to adapt to it. Some of the values is that adaptability. It also is that holistic view, as one organism all works together, and then it always continuously tries to improves itself. Some of the limitations is that it is a very complex model and that many people will not understand this model. Most people probably won't understand this model. It is extremely data dependent. This model uses data more than all other models. It requires every single ounce of data possible, and if companies, let's say small companies, probably won't even have near enough information or data to run a management model like this. And additionally, as we said, that it is highly flexible and adaptable. This is also kind of a limitation due to its flexibility. It is constantly changing the model. So it's essentially a strategy. As it gets inputs, it might change frequently as the world also changes with it, meaning its employees and everything might not be able to keep up. So let's move on to our next model. We have tableau de bord. It is French origin, uh, meaning dashboard. It was generally used for dashboard measuring unit for subunits, and those subunits would then send it up to higher units and so on. Some of the characteristics is focuses on the unit's vision, its key success factors, and it also has key performance indicators for each of those success factors. It values a bottom up approach as it allows for each subunit to build upon their own success factors and create their own key performance indicators. It is very good in visualization, helping all managers and top level management easily read and understand what is happening within the business, and it is very data driven. Limitations, it's quite outdated as it was originally designed in 1950s. It's been worked on over the years, but still relatively outdated. Another major limitation is its subjectivity. So allowing that bottom up approach, allowing the subunits to decide on each of their factors might not necessarily align with the company's strategy, as the top level units might not agree with the sub level units' success factors and indicators. Next, we're going to move on to the SMART criteria. SMART criteria stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. It was introduced in 1981 for clear goal setting. The idea of this was to reduce confusion and give a clear route to success. It has helped to create clarity, focus, and drive and purpose. some of the values is that versatility, clarity, specificity, and alignment. The versatility helps by allowing essentially anyone can use it. It's very versatile. It can be used for any kind of objective, goal, plan, anything it wants. It's very clear as it has very structured outline that you just fill out to make your goal. And then we have a few limitations as well. It's not necessarily designed for continuous improvement as you very first make your SMART goal or SMART objective. You don't really go back and look at it. You just make your goal and you try to stick with it. It lacks flexibility as well. Whereas, like I said, you kind of just make your goal and you don't really attempt or prepare for change. And also, as that short term focus, as we said, it kind of lacks that flexibility. So the longer you go out in time, the more flexibility you need. All right. So those were our 5 models. Now we're just going to talk about the 2 types of analysis that we are going to complete. So our first one is the gap analysis. It's a comprehensive assessment technique to evaluate performance models based on their strengths and weaknesses. Our objective is to understand the effectiveness of the 5 performance management models and assess them based on each of their strengths and weaknesses. Then we have our performance rating scale. Objective is to critically analyze the 5 models to determine their effectiveness and applicability. So the performance rating scale uses I just decided on 5 different key elements. So within a PM model, you should have a holistic approach, which is a well-rounded performance assessment. It needs to have flexibility or adaptability. It helps ensure relevance in changing circumstances. We need to think about the ease of implementation. It needs to promote accessibility and widespread adoption throughout a business or organization. And then we have continuous improvement, needs to drive, which helps drive businesses toward consistent betterment. And then finally, we have a feedback system. It needs to enables informed decision making through robust data and information. And so those are our 5 key elements for our rating scale, and it is using a 1 to 5 rating scale, one being the lowest or bad, 5 being the best or good. So we have the performance prism. As you see on our left, we'll have our strengths. On our right, we have our weaknesses. And in the middle, we have our performance rating scale. This is the design for the next couple slides for each of our models. So a strength within the performance prism is that it is stakeholder centric. It builds trust and fosters strong relationships that prioritizes stakeholders, has multiple dimensions, evaluates processes, strategies, capabilities, preventing oversight, and capabilities preventing oversight of crucial business factors. And finally, continuous adaptation. It ensures alignment with the evolving stakeholder needs, offering adaptability in a dynamic business environment. Then we're going to move over to the weaknesses. It is resource intensive. It may strain resource limited businesses as it requires a lot of resources, data, time, information to implement the model. Potential for subjectivity is a weakness. It is centered as a stakeholder first approach. It can introduce biases and also trying to determine the weight of each stakeholder, which one is more important, which one is less important, also requires a lot of data. Finally, that data management requires a lot of non-financial data, which a lot of companies do not constantly keep up with. So it would be another type of resource that slows down the company. So in the middle, we have our performance rating scale. So as I said, a 5 is the best and a 1 is the worst. These are not rated each indistinguishably like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a rating of how good or how bad the model could actually be. So a holistic approach, we have 4, and as y'all can see, flexibility, adaptability, 4, meaning it's not the best, but it's very good. Ease of implementation is 2, not the worst, but definitely not good. And then continuous improvement for feedback system 4. Now let's move on. We have QPMM. Its major strength is that it's organizational alignment. It operates as a unified entity, seamlessly integrating all its changes and all its inputs that it's receiving, and then also its adaptability. It can harness real time data, ensuring that it's flexible within any type of market, constantly changing business environment. Now let's move on to its weaknesses. Less established, less researched. It hasn't really been utilized as much as many of the other performance management models, so there's a lot of testing that still needs to be conducted. It also requires a lot of data, relies heavily on data, continuous influx of that real time data, posing challenges for a lot of businesses. This really would only work for very well established large businesses that focus on data. And then finally, very complex. Not quantum mechanics, since it's based on the idea of quantum mechanics, it is not a very easy and easily understandable model. And then we go to our rating scale. So, holistic approach does a mediocre job with a 3, extremely flexible. However, the ease of implementation, very poor, as it is very difficult to implement. And then continuous improvement, uh, besides itself being an improving model, it doesn't really help the improvement of the employees as it changes extremely fast. And its feedback system, it is very good as it always is applying the new inputs that it receives. However, it kind of runs into that same issue of since it constantly changes, it kind of runs into the problem of allowing humans, I guess, or employees to catch up. Next, we have the balanced scorecard. It's the whole potato. Strengths has a multi perspective view. It offers a comprehensive view by considering both financial and non financial measurements. Its strategy helps alignment, bridges performance metrics with strategic objectives, which helps that decision making. And then a few of the weaknesses is its implementation. Demands a significant amount of transformation through alignment, as well as a lot of data requirements. It also has a major focus on non financial data, meaning companies again need to be able to start tracking that, which can delay the process of implementation. It has a great score in a holistic approach and flexibility. And then, but however, its failure or its weak point is that ease of implementation, that data requirement, that resource requirement, that time to implementation can take a very long. Next, we move on to tableau de bord. Our strengths, it's a visually appealing model that facilitates quick comprehension of KPIs and aiding in which helps decision making. Then we have a managerial focus. It ensures alignment of each department with the overarching company vision. And then a couple of its weaknesses are its potential for subjectivity, since it focuses on subunits, that bottom up approach. It needs to uh, be possibly a little bit more structured, a little more managerial focused first versus department lower level focus that decide on their own. Then we have a lack of direction. So it does give a broad overview, but it may miss out on crucial performance parameters. Um, that broad overview is additionally another weakness that the model's general overview nature might miss out on finer details and leaving a little bit of gaps within its assessment. Finally, we have SMART goals again. Its strengths is that it's simple, it's very easy, it's very structured, it enhances motivation as it provides a very clear and structured roadmap. which can boost morale and focus. And then it's very clear, as we've said, criteria ensure that objectives are not only specific, but they're measurable. And it's easy to see uh, how far you are compared to your original goal. And then we have our weaknesses. It is a narrow focus. Its very specific nature may overlook broader organizational performance aspects. Its rigidity, as its defined parameters, may hinder adaptability in a constantly changing environment. And it's very short term oriented. Given its emphasis on time bound goals, the model might not be suited for long term strategic planning or objectives that require ongoing adaptation. So this model actually received the lowest overall score just due to its holistic approach, flexibility, continuous improvement feedback system. So the system is very simple, clear, and effective. However, it is just not very useful in the business environment as it does not do a very good job of flexibility, and it does not have a really good opportunity for continuous improvement or a feedback system. However, the ease of implementation is the highest of them all, as anyone and everyone can do it. Finally, we have our performance rating scale. This is all of those scales mixed together so you can kind of see an overall view of how they looked. As you can see, we have the BSC or the balanced scorecard and the performance prism actually scoring the exact same scores as a 18 and 18 overall. And then we mentioned that SMART as a 12, and then Tableau de Bord 13, and our quantum performance model as a 14. I'll let y'all look at this for just a couple seconds, and I'll move on. Finally, we have a recommendation. So we have current situation, BSC challenges, and solutions. So our current situation was that we didn't have a clear performance management system. We had a bunch of miscommunication on the mission, vision, and strategy. And we have a directionless approach to leading inefficiencies and underperformance. Our BSC challenges were so we decided on choosing the balanced scorecard. The balanced scorecard challenges were that they are difficulty in organization wide implementation, a lack of understanding among employees, and potential concerns during transition. Solutions to each of these is a phased implementation, slowly integrate the BSC into the company one by one. We provide, and solution two is training and education, make sure that everybody is on board and understands what the purpose of the BSC is. And then finally, establish a feedback mechanism. We're going to conclude that the balanced scorecard promises aligned objectives, increased efficiency, and a culture of continuous improvement. With a strategic approach, we can overcome challenges and steer our company towards success. Thanks.